Hey folks, how you doing? Happy Saturday. Man, we got onto this late today, this Today in History for July 16th. We're not usually this late, but it's been just one of those busy days. Fairly soon we're going to try to do this Today in History. It's our goal, because every time we do this, notice it gets a little better. Every time we do this, we have a little bit more pictures, a little bit more information. More Patreons every single day. Thank you for the people who are joining, and for the folks who are donating to us, because we're in need of new equipment on our PayPal. Some folks don't want to join Patreon or buy a T-shirt. They just say, "Hey, can I help you out? I'll send you a little money." That's fine. So if you want to do that, the links are in the description of this video. By the way, is it your birthday today, July 16th? If it is, there's a lot of stuff that happened on your birthday. Like a lot of things that have happened. And I've noticed it's strange with this Today in History. Before we get going, we really thought that most of the tread on these videos would be on the day of release, right? It has a shelf life. It's evergreen, because every year people will go into the video on that date. But we're finding folks are going into the video like a week later. So that's okay. We're okay with that, because maybe you're looking up your birthday. Who knows? So that's the deal. So anyway, if you want to support us, look in the links, look in the description. But what are we here for? Well, we're here to talk about Today in History. We've got, hold on. I don't know what happened there. Hold on. Nope. There we go. I don't know why my camera did that. That was weird. I don't know why my camera did that. Guess whose birthday it is? 1952, one of the greatest drummers of all time. He always comes in the top 20, at the very least in the top 30 of a lot of polls when it comes to drummers. And an innovative drummer, a guy who gives you a little bit more every single time. Stewart Copeland, born in 1952 in Virginia. The other two were, of course, from the other side of the pond, but unbelievable drummer. Always love the stuff that he does. Also today, a sad day for Styx fans. 1996, John Beaudin, American drummer, dies of cirrhosis of the liver. He was only 47 years old. He was an incredibly heavy drinker. So that was a thing. That was the monkey on his back. When I talked to Jason Scheff this week for 3 hours, the former lead singer, the guy who replaced Peter Cetera in Chicago, he talked about his addictions, and he talked about how he got over things. And he came up with things during the interview that I just never heard before. That blew my mind. So we're going to be working actually on that interview tonight. Hopefully maybe getting one part on tonight on our sister station, Rock History Music. That's the one that's almost at 100,000 subscribers. So there you go. So John, great drummer. Anybody who was listening to the early Styx knew all about him. You know, it's a sad thing. You might recognize this guy playing keys for a big band. In 2012, John Lord, Englishman, Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, died of pulmonary embolism. He was 71 years old. At least he was 71. And when you get guys who are passing away at 71, it's still young. But, I mean, it's kind of shocking when these kind of things happen, because rock and rollers we always think are going to live forever, and they certainly don't. Recognize that face. That incredibly witty, he was such a poet, and he owned 100,000 pounds of bananas. Look up Harry Chapin, 100,000 pounds of bananas. That's a great song. The live version is even better. He died in an auto accident. He was only 38 years old. I remember the report when it came in 81, that he was driving a Volkswagen Rabbit. But anyway, he was struck from behind. A lot of blood loss. The car caught on fire. Folks were trying to help him. So they got him out of the car, but I'm not sure if he died on his way or died once he got to the hospital. But what an incredible loss in music. Wow. I remember I was such a big fan. Verities and Balderdash. I was driving a Trans Am, and I had Night and Day on one side by Joe Jackson and Verities and Balderdash by Harry Chapin on the other side. While I was playing them so loud, I forget which album was actually on. They were going back for one song from the other album. And I blew an engine, a 400 engine in a 1978 Trans Am. I loved that car. It was gold. It was beautiful. In 1973, Bob Dylan released the soundtrack to Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. It was released. I never had that album. That wasn't big on, back in 73, I was 13, so wasn't exactly big on soundtrack albums. Oh, look at this. Don't Punish the Messenger. It just came up today. Sean Cassidy went #1. Last night on our sister channel, we were just talking about stinky songs that were big hits. And that one made the list last night. It went to #1 in the U.S. charts, the Do Run Run. There you go. Like I said, don't punish the messenger. We're just here to hang out. In 2000, Coldplay went #1 in the UK with their debut album, Parachutes. It was a good album. I remember a lot of people were saying this band sounds different than anybody else. They have their own sound, right? But unfortunately, they've released a lot of that sound since then, so not everyone has been crazy about Coldplay. Oh, look at this. 2012, Queen's 1975 song, the one we all know from A Night at the Opera, Bohemian Rhapsody, was voted as the UK's favorite #1 single. It barely beat out Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. But look at those guys. I mean, there wasn't a weak link in this band, like seriously, and released so many great things after that. And we're big again, of course, in the 80s. We don't have a picture for this guy, but Robbie Williams started a 2-week run at #1 on the singles charts with Eternity. Never been a big fan of the guy. He doesn't get a picture. What the heck? What's wrong with John Beaudin? Robbie Williams. He's been having a fight with Jimmy Page because they lived beside each other. And they've just been fighting a terrible, terrible situation as neighbors. There's the man, the king of rock and roll, 1955. Made his first appearance on the national charts with Baby. That's Playhouse. Entered Cashbox at #15. The king of rock and roll. He deserves the title, that's for sure. 1962, the Beach Boys signed to Capitol Records. These 5 lads did okay for themselves, huh? And when we were talking the other day about who the biggest, on our sister station, who was the biggest American band? And about half the people agreed that it was the Eagles, and the Eagles, it's a question. I said, are the Eagles the greatest American band? But more people, I think second was the Beach Boys, because they had, Pet Sounds, but also before and after Pet Sounds. And a lot of folks would say they wouldn't have been a Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band if there wasn't for Pet Sounds, which was released in 66. Sgt. Pepper's was released in 67, so there you go. Speaking of 67, what the... The Who began their... Oh, hold on. I got a Who picture. There they are. In 67, The Who began their first full U.S. tour. They were at the Fillmore in San Francisco, California. What a band. Always been a big fan of the band. Well, it's the Monkees. What do you know? They performed at Forest Hills in 1967 at Tennis Stadium in Queens, New York, with Jimi Hendrix Experience. And a lot of people that was because Jimi Hendrix was blowing the Monkees off the stage. They decided to come up with a stupid excuse on why they couldn't tour together. Oh well, what are you going to do? Oh, this is a big one. Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, and Eric Clapton formed a little-known band. They did okay. Called Cream. Again, when you talk about a band, this is like a super group. There was no weak links in this group, even though at the time, I think an elder statement of mine says at the time a lot of us didn't really know what was going on and weren't familiar with the term supergroup, and it was probably too early for that. In 1969, the Beatles, during the recording of Abbey Road, one of their biggest albums, arguably their best album, started working with George Harrison on 2 songs. Here Comes the Sun, and Something. What a 2 unbelievable songs. And the epitome of a band with no weak links is, of course, it's going to be the Beatles. Smokey Robinson and the Miracles in 72 performed their last show as a band. What a talent. Smokey Robinson, man. Jeez. What a talent. Oh, someone was saying, my t-shirt? Yeah, it's Pink Floyd. But because of the green screen, the green is invisible so you can see right through me. What the? John Beaudin, what kind of show are you running here? Oh, there she is. I don't know, she scares me a little bit sometimes. In 2009, while a stage was being built in France for Madonna, it collapsed, killing 2 co-workers, injuring 6 others in the history of rock and roll. There you go. And Metallica in 2019, they brought their worldwide tour to Finland, drawing almost 1% of the country's population. It was really a record-breaking thing. A big night for the band. Congratulations, boys. There you go. It's Today in History. Hope you enjoyed that. Alan Barnes. Hello, Alan. Nice to have you on here. I don't recognize Barsness. Yeah. I don't recognize your name, so maybe it's the first time for you. Alex Knight, the great Harry Chapin. Yeah. That was... it was on Facebook today. It was on YouTube today. People... it's a sad day because I was in radio school at the time. I keep thinking I was in radio, but now that I remember, 81, I wasn't in radio yet. I was completely shocked. And I remember thinking, because my best friend drove a Volkswagen Rabbit, that's what he was driving. You think, right? I mean, he wasn't a rock star. I mean, he's in the rock era. But as I mentioned a while ago, if you don't know 100,000 pounds of bananas, oh my God. Or is it 500,000 pounds? I forget. I haven't heard it in years. It's a great song. Dragon Gerald. Roger Waters said he is bigger than Weekend Drake. Any thoughts? Well, to me he is, and he would be because the charts are different now. When Drake had that string and he beat the Beatles for the hits. What was it? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and he. I remember thinking, well, the chart situation's different. Drake's never going to go down in history. Drake's not a phenomenon. Drake's a big artist in the structures of the charts today. So Roger Waters to me is much bigger because he's my hero of that time, right? So, yeah. Happy Eve all. Chase Tower, nice to have you on here. Thank you very much. So, yeah, Roger Waters is bigger. I appreciate people coming on to this channel because I'll say it again. I know you hear me say it every night, but this channel was always meant for a Today in History. But I didn't want to produce it. I wanted to do it on the fly. And since I've done a lot of these, like, in radio, when you get into radio, you have your commercials. Before everything was automated, you'd have your commercials over here on carts. They look like 8-tracks. You'd have your music down here, 3 turntables. You'd have 2 reel-to-reels over here. You'd have the third turntable was always had a spare song in case something happened to the 2 first ones. You'd always have a spare in the back. And the turntables were on very, very, very heavy cupboards in case someone would hit it. They were all Techniques turntables we always used back there. So that was the days in radio. But things are very different now. So I like doing things live because it brings me back to the early days when you're just flying on radio. So right now on one computer in front of me, I have the Today in History. On this computer, my laptop, which is the one that's dying, that's why we're trying to raise money. That's where we're doing a little fundraiser of people hoping will donate because we really don't have the money to buy another laptop. I do most of my editing on the laptop. So that's why if you want to help us, links in the description right at the very top. You want to help us raise money for our new computer, that would be greatly appreciated. And I've never asked for money in 8 years, 9 years I've been doing this. Just not been one of those things that I do, but we're kind of like cutting it with this situation. So anyway, thank you for the people who joined our Patreon, and just what people who didn't want to join Patreon or buy a t-shirt just basically went on PayPal and just said, hey, here's a little bit of money. So thank you. And Today in History, before I go, Today in History is meant to be a thing that's in the morning, but for whatever reason it doesn't do well in the morning, but we want to put it there. We have to. Little Wing, fellow Toronto resident Gordon Life is actually good friends with Drake. Go figure. Really? Wow. When I went in 1987 to Toronto from Edmonton to try to sell my syndicated show, which was called the Cross Canada Report, we had reporters in different cities across the country, and the entire show was interviews with Canadian artists. When we did that, went from the airport to downtown Toronto where I was staying, and the cab driver looked at a high rise and he says, I don't know if it's true. He said, Gordon Lightfoot lifts at the top of that one there. And I went, oh, wow, okay, sure. Because he heard what I was, he said, what are you in town for? And I told him I was trying to sell, got an advertiser for the Cross Canada Report. We had like 42 stations across the country. And I'd just been in radio 2 years, so it was great. But we couldn't get Toronto. If I would have gotten a more seasoned announcer to do the show, I think we would have gotten Toronto and a sponsor. But my ego kind of got in the way because I was doing really well. But looking back now, I'm going, wee, wee, wee. So there you go. Happy Saturday, everyone. If it's your birthday, I hope you had a really, really good day. A lot of interesting things happened. You can rebroadcast this anytime you want or share it. Please share it. Comment on everything, but on the applicable groups. If you're part of a group that does rock and roll history, please share it on there, and I'd appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and we're going to be back tomorrow night, and we might be back a little later on to talk about the Roger Waters thing on our sister channel. Take good care. John Beaudin, Rock History Book.